What was your high school's wildest NSFW scandal? Dubbed the urinator, they kept finding urine puddles in the school hallways, stairwells, and the handicap elevator. The school had cameras everywhere, but they never saw someone just peeing in the hallway. No one knew how it kept happening without someone being caught. Turns out someone was peeing in a Gatorade bottle, and in between classes when halls were full they would just randomly spill it somewhere and no one around them noticed. The method only got found out when the bottle with some leftovers was found in a trash. But they still never found who actually was doing it. The football star at my high school was accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old child and went to jail for it based off very little evidence. He was sentenced to 25 years. It was my junior year, and it was his senior year. He had a full ride scholarship to play football, and he, along with everyone else, really thought he'd make it to the NFL. He served 3 years of that sentence when the county's new DA looked over his case and saw that there was basically no evidence, so he was released. This was in summer 2017 and he was officially exonerated last year. Turns out it was his best friend, who looked just like him and lived with him, who did it. Dude is doing really well now. His girlfriend stuck with him through the whole thing and they're married now. There's actually a documentary on Showtime about it that just came out. This happened after I graduated, but a student attacked another student with a frying pan. There weren't any frying pans in the school, so it had to be a premeditated frying pan attack. There was one kid who was caught, not once, not twice, not even thrice, but 4 times masturbating to horse porn at school. An English teacher would make out with a student during his planning period while his wife was teaching classes next door. After school, he would make excuses to his wife about having to stay late at school and meet the student at hotel rooms. He was led out of the school in handcuffs in front of the entire school. Funny enough, the cops gave him the opportunity to go out the back door of the school and not make a scene, but he refused. I actually witnessed this. So 2 students with mental disabilities went to the toilet together. Exactly what you think happened. The teachers forced the door open to stop them. End result of this, the parents of both students each argued that neither had the capacity to give consent. Both students were sent to court on rape charges against each other. Of course it was their parents' choice to do this. Charges were dismissed in the end though. But that was one hell of a month for everyone in the know. One of the girls were fucking the IT admin. She was 16 to 17 when that started. Heard an update from an old classmate nearly 20 years later, and not only have they stayed together, they're married, got 3 kids and live the upper middle class suburban dream life. Students got caught fucking behind the theater by the vice principal. He went on the PA system to remind all students to refrain from doing anything inappropriate while at school or in the theater room. You could hear the entire school erupt in fucking laughter. No one knew who it was though. Girls' track coach gave members of the girls' track team rides home and massages. Got escorted out of the school in cuffs one day. Our science teacher was a porn star in a past life. Someone in the school found a video she was in his dad's porn stash. It was a huge scandal in our conservative town. She was let go, which sucked because she was really an excellent teacher. It became a national news story. She was on Dr. Phil about it. Despite numerous campaigns by the students, she was never hired back. Kids had sex on a bus. Led to a lot of news beyond our immediate area. There was also potentially a graphic teammate that said school region know how to ride the buzz. A girl from my HS sucked Lil Pump stick on Egg Live. A teacher who was always suspected of having inappropriate relationships with students managed to get on the wrong plane with a student during the senior trip. They ended up in Greece when everyone else was in Italy. 9 months later she had a baby but didn't tell anyone who the father was. Not even a scandal, just a widely accepted rumor. English teacher was purported to select 1 male per senior class to try and woo and sleep with. My friend claimed his older brother was that year's selection, prodding him to strive to do the same. Unfortunately for him, another, uninterested, buddy actually was. Resulting in her petting his arm, giggling at his jokes, bending over in front of him, etc. She left to become a principal at a different district a few years later. Somebody pooped in a Pringles can and hid it in the bathroom. One of the PE teachers was very not secretly in a relationship with one of the upper 6th girls, US senior. The day after she left school he left his missus and he and the girl shacked up and later married. Last I looked they were still happily married with a couple of kids. Let's see. The greasy hair comb-over principal was banging the young counselor during school in the office. Forgot to close the blinds. Was seen by half the school. And his wife who was a PE teacher. My high school friend who got pregnant who was propositioned by the football coaches. It doesn't matter now, you're already knocked up. The soccer coach was sleeping with 4 of the soccer players, 16 to 18 years old, 2 of them being other teachers' daughters. They had it completely secret until his wife found a journal where wrote about each time he slept with each girl on the team. At the end of the school day we walked out and there was 4 to 5 cop cars and they were walking him out of his building in cuffs. If I remember correctly, the girls didn't have to come back to school for the rest of the school year. It was close to the end anyway. Everyone found out their names pretty quickly. Biggest scandal at that school in decades. Our history teacher made multiple sexual remarks to a female classmate. One time he pulled her shirt up because her cleavage was distracting. He retired not long after that. Long story short, a student was caught having sex with a sheep at the tiny farm the school ran for the agricultural elective students. Edit. So, since it's been asked a few times, the only slightly longer part of the story was that the class was, as stated, an agriculture elective. Once a student had completed enough required worksheets, they got to go over to the farm and do some work instead of sitting in class writing. Not exactly easy, but it was nice when the weather was cool. This guy had the class for both morning sessions, so he said he'd just stay over at the farm and get a ride back at the end of the next class. Well, amongst other incidents, he was not the brightest bulb in the box. Seems he lost track of time and the next class came walking up to the barn with him balls deep in the sheep. Word was, the sheep didn't seem to notice. 2 students coordinated jerking off in English class. My homeroom teacher in 6th grade was caught having sex with a 12th grader. A kid apparently jacked off in the back of the class. Someone apparently got it on their phone. Cops came, person who recorded it got charged. He sat where I did, but in a different class period. So I switched my chair for a new, less nutty, chair. Turns out, every other class before me had also switched the chair, so we couldn't find the nut chair. We even made black lights with our phones to look for the chair. It was great. Someone put gear oil in the machine shop teacher's coffee. Damn near killed him. Not sexual, but someone took a huge shit in one of the bathroom sinks. Very much abnormally large, especially given that it was in a sink. It was basically a mountain of shit and at the very top someone put a perfectly ripe strawberry. Girl had a video spread of her letting her dog screw her. That and a dude's mushroom dick being shared on Snapchat. An English teacher had sex with a student as soon as she turned 18 and she went on to become a Victoria's Secret model. He had a reputation for doing so every few years. He only got fired last year. A student was having sex with many girls in the gym locker room or music practice rooms. This was discovered due to an explosion in STD rates. I don't recall if it was chlamydia or gonorrhea, yuck. This was a year or 2 after I graduated, but there was this one teacher at my high school who was fired for, in no particular order of weirdness, buying booze for students, smoking weed with students, buying weed for students, buying weed from students, writing a paper for a student for a different class in exchange for weed, driving certain students who skipped school to a bar in a different city several hours away, sending a student a completely unsolicited text that said, "I've never wanted to cheat with anyone in my life, but I want to with you." Offering to buy a student a $500 knife and give it to him at school, explaining it thus, "If I can walk around campus with marijuana on me, you can walk around with a shipping box with a knife in it." kiddo, you can't walk around campus with marijuana on you." She was the scripture teacher. That position, at that school, at least when I was there, was as cursed as the defense against the dark arts job at Hogwarts. We had a football coach fucking one of the cheerleaders. I was so blind to it all. He was my positional coaches and I had respect for him, so I never believed it. He never talked about it and I was friends with the cheerleader and she always denied it. 2 years after graduation they got married because she was already pregnant with their second child. She dropped out of college her first semester and became a stay-at-home mom. Her Facebook page now is just really sad. It has been almost 16 years since we graduated and she still seems miserable. All her dreams just vanished and she is still married to that coach who is getting older and fatter. He is over 60 and she is in her 30s. There was this younger, smoking hot female teacher at my high school. Her BF was on The Real World, and she did a visit on the show wearing a super skimpy bikini and talking about her BFF's dick. Everyone had already had a crush on her, but this pushed it over the edge. I don't know if she quit teaching, but I don't remember seeing her around school after that year. Used to run into our IT tech at illegal raves doing coke a fair bit. To be 16 again. Someone shit on the toilet cover and masturbated over a picture of our English teacher. My biology teacher was having sex with a sophomore. It became a personal problem for me because I wanted to take AP Bio the next year, and I needed a recommendation from my current teacher to take the class. I asked the AP instructor if I should go to the state penitentiary to get my letter. Edit, that requirement was waived for me, but I'm okay saying terrible things about the ordeal instead. I went to a charter school in PA. The founder stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from the school district and used it for himself. In the back of the school, he built an apartment with a stripper pole, but it was hidden in the school. You could only get to it through one door hidden in a closet. He was eventually caught stealing money and he committed suicide. One of our history teachers had been a stripper before becoming a teacher. This was years earlier. She was a stripper before she even went to college to get her teaching degree. We found out about this because the father of one of my classmates had been a regular customer of hers and recognized her at a student-teacher conference. He told his son, who obviously told the entire school. Principal sexually harassed a teacher. Gym teacher was fired for being too close to female students. I couldn't get any more details, but I did witness his strange behavior towards females in the class many times. One girl had a key to his office. Students having sex in bathroom per second theater. Nobody ever got caught in the theater as far as I know. There was also a stabbing my freshman year. I didn't witness that itself, but I was in the hallway that it happened on and witnessed the loud and panicked crowd. Edit, for any more people wondering if we went to the same high school, I went to high school in Tennessee. My first day of 9th grade, a senior took a hit of acid, took his clothes off, ran around naked yelling, "I want to see everyone, I want to see everyone." He was finally chilled out and they got a robe on him. Called his folks. Maybe he was suspended. Same him a few weeks later. 3 years after that he came to our house to install cable TV. My dad always kept some cheap beer around for service people and the like. I gave him and his co-worker and said we didn't have any LSD. He laughed his ass off and said, "That's probably a good thing." We had a charity thing in high school where you'd raise money for cancer. The amount being raised was shown on a thermometer and every limit would force a teacher to shave their head. On the very top was this French teacher. Anyways, the initiative was due to finish after lunch recess. A bunch of people are in gym shaving their heads and trying to raise money. Bills are flying down from the bleachers and we raised just enough money right at the bell. The French teacher was knocked down and ran away, causing all the students to chase her into the bathroom, banging on the door and shit. She soon after had a bit of a mental breakdown. Someone at school found out her lava life profile and she left. Also, some students stole all the money raised in the initiative from the gym. Either our vice principal was smashing a senior while sexually assaulting another teacher, and when the story got out to the students, the vice principal tried to break into her room to confront her and she ended up passing out from a panic attack. Or 2 senior girls were having sex with the town sheriff and his wife, and during a summer morning after leaving the sheriff's house completely wasted on booze they swerved into oncoming traffic, killing a man on the way to school. Both girls have kids and are married and never showed a glimpse of regret or change of lifestyle after the crash. Edit, was deputy not sheriff, sorry //www. com/news/birmingham/2016/02/x_Chilton_county_deputy_senti. HTML. In the auditorium there was this obvious hole in the wall, and when I say hole I mean like a 10 feet by 10 feet square, but it was way up by the roof and back behind the stage curtains. One day my friend said she saw the janitor climbing down from it on a ladder, and she saw where he put the ladder. After school we went back there, and sure enough she went straight to the ladder. We climbed up to the hole, and there was a pretty big ledge in the hole with a twin-sized mattress covered in stains and a rack of old Playboys and shit. I was very concerned about the janitor after this. All these pedophile teacher stories, and all my high school did was start a rumor a girl named Janie didn't have a butthole. A few years ago I had the TV on in the background with a true crime show going, wasn't paying much attention to it until I heard the line, "There wasn't much else for high school kids to do in wife's hometown during year wife would have been in high school." Started paying attention, and it's covering some kind of sex ring that ended with the murder of one of the participants. Brought it up with my wife and she was like, "What? I don't remember." Oh, right, that incident. A student routinely masturbated in the gender-neutral bathroom, without cleaning up after himself, and when people found out they started leaving post-it notes that read "nut-free zone." Our principal had to address the entire school about it. Edit, I'm in no way saying this was a problem with the bathrooms themselves, but it was 100% a problem because of that individual. Girl 1 sends nudes to Girl 2's boyfriend. Girl 2 prints the nudes out and puts them in every unlocked locker and on all of the walls in the school. This is totally fucked up. 2 senior boys pinned a younger kid down on a pool table, pulled his shorts down and hammered a giant glue stick up his ass with a hockey stick. Needless to say there were a few expulsions. We had this kid who was super pissed about his ex-girlfriend getting with a new guy, so decided he was going to kill the new guy right in front of her. Their class was all lined up outside for gym, and he walks up to the guy, goes to pull the gun out of his pants, accidentally hit the trigger, and shoots himself in the dick, and through his thigh. He ran just far enough to collapse on my English teacher's doorstep. He survived. Edit, I'm sorry folks, I honestly do not know the fate of the penis. I just remember all the parents and teachers being so concerned about the students owing a school shooting. And we were all just, what kind of fucking idiot shoots themselves in the dick? My statistics teacher got fired when he accidentally turned on the projector to show his Mac screen to the whole class and a porn site was opened. A couple fucked in the bathroom before an assembly, and one of the teachers heard. He subtly mentioned it later at the assembly just to find out whose faces got red. They were suspended. My friend grabbed my phone and sent a penis to the prom chat. A bunch of football players went to town on a girl in the auditorium. That was the rumor anyway. The other NSFW scandal is a guy found out his girlfriend was pregnant, so he decided to solve this by tying her to a chair and beating her to death with a bat. I wish that was a rumor. New question, teachers of Reddit, how hard is it to not fuck the students? My math teacher literally woke up one day, murdered his wife, arranged things so it looked like a suicide, emptied her bank account and went on to have a normal teaching day at school. We even had a mass, Catholic school, for her weeks later, and he faked grief through it all. We found out months later during school recess. I think this happened right after I graduated, but I was still friends and neighbors with the PE teacher. One day while changing, one of the students thought it would be funny to shit in his own hand, carry it into the gym, and throw it at his friend who had already changed and was waiting for class to start. The teacher was too shocked to do anything at first, but it splattered off the other kid's shirt and then that kid started projectile vomiting. It started a chain reaction, and multiple students started dry heaving and then puking onto the gym floor, running out. The gym was closed down for like 2 weeks and had to be repainted, the hardwood floors refinished. The kid who carried out the shitfest received no punishment from the school and the teacher moved to a different school the next year. Also, the wrestling coach got arrested for possession of child pornography and inappropriate behavior with a few students. 2 girls were caught having fun in the women's bathroom. Phones got banned because a couple had sex at school and they filmed it with their phones. A girl gave oral sex to 2 guys. Nothing too crazy, right? No, those announcements in front of the school? There was an open mic and we'd get updates on the chess team, sports, etc. Some ass went up and said in front of 500 plus people, "I just wanted to congratulate Lindsay on winning the 2-on-1 basketball tournament." The initial salvo sailed over the admins' heads, but they figured it out. I have to, when I was in a private school, there was a big scandal about a senior student having sex with a teacher and she got pregnant. He was an amazing volleyball player and had full scholarship, he lost all of it. Then when I changed schools to a public one, a senior apparently raped a 10th grade student. ETA, one of my ex-classmates remembered the case, and told me that he was already 18, though they started having sex earlier. By the time she was pregnant he was 18, I assume it was between April to May of that year. The music teacher was having an affair with another teacher, I think from the language department. His wife found out and he got kicked out. Rumor has it he ended up living in the back of the music room for a few months. Another teacher was on her period and tried to smear her blood on the science desks, which were slightly higher than your waist. Seemed strange, but later she got arrested for doing coke. A guy sitting his exam needed a piss, but instead of asking to be excused, he thought the best course of action was to have a wank. Another student brought in wine and got drunk before our first lesson. This kid titty fucked this girl in the quad after giving her way too much. She had a seizure during the whole thing. Was awful. One day we all came to school and the front office, which was surrounded by glass, was shattered and we all just assumed some asshole vandalizing the school. A couple of weeks later, the police came and arrested our principal and one of the vice principals. No one knew why. Turns out that one of our other vice principals, super young dude maybe early 30s, had made out with a girl in my class, seniors, was 17, who was also the daughter of the varsity football coach. She was dating my friend's older brother, straight degenerate druggie, and the older brother found out and came and threw a rock at the glass building. Our principal and vice principal knew and covered it up, so they go arrested. Eventually the guilt VP was charged and sentenced to a couple of years in San Quentin. He now has a YouTube channel and came out with a book about his time in prison. Edit, couple of months in square, not years. My high school actually had a couple of these in my 4 years there. One girl got caught sucking some guy's dick, both students, in the bathroom right in front of the school office. This was especially memorable because of how everyone found out. A student with mild mental disabilities came out of the bathroom and reported that it looked there was a girl in the men's room drinking toilet water since the guy was sitting in the toilet. Coach of the softball team was sleeping with one of the players who was 15 to 16 at the time. Worst part was that the coach's daughter was also on the team and at least roughly the same age. Teacher got done for being a pedophile. Full gamut, abusing kids in closets and planting cameras in the changing rooms. It was a super posh fee-paying school too. Happened after I left and I never met him. Read it in the paper. Leaked video of the business teacher licking her own nipple, trying to be seductive. This was sent to several senior boys. It was rumored she was involved with a few of them as well. She was escorted out of school during one of her classes. Despite all the charges, she never really served time. New teacher came in to teach 10th grade chemistry. She was about 24 years old and super friendly with students. Halfway through the school year, one of her students fucked her, taped it and of course, showed the whole school. I'm late to this, but a kid in my high school's family was legit keeping slaves in his basement. One of them escaped and ran to a Dunkin' Donuts and they were freed and parents charged. The slaves were chained in the basement and covered in cigarette burns. The kid never showed up to school again. The whole school was divided between hating him and feeling bad for him. Some thought he should have reported his family. Others thought he was likely a victim of abuse himself. Crazy shit. A jock we went to school with did a gay porn video. This was the early 2000s in a rural town. Homophobia was prevalent. For some reason he told his baseball teammates about the video. He came to school 2 more times and then disappeared. His family moved a few weeks later. Nobody in my high school class has heard or seen him since. Now, on the one hand I can appreciate that he just wanted to get it over with and let the world know. Maybe he was gay and figured making a few $1,000s for coming out was worth it. On the other, if he hadn't told anybody and somebody in my town came across this gay porn video, who were they going to tell? Ultimately I feel bad that my hometown is so backwards. We had this weird science teacher. He was your standard mid-50s creep, but he had a really bad stroke or something that required part of his skull to be removed, so he had this huge seam on his head from the metal plate. He used to make girls stay behind after class and wash the lab tables while watching them. It happened to me a couple times, but I was never more than just a bit creeped out. The next year, he vanished very quietly. Also someone started a preposterous rumor that I was pregnant. My mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me, and promised to make my life a living hell if I ever got pregnant as a teen, so that ruined the rest of my teenage years with her. Thanks high school, worst years of my life so far smile. The girlfriend of my best friend was molested one day. It didn't take long for it to get around school, when the police got to investigating the whole situation, and after about a week the molester disappeared from school for multiple months. He came back as a registered sex offender. The molester was someone in our class, and when my best friend found out he took matters into his own. Molester ended up with a broken nose. Not high school, but we had a teacher sleep with a mentally disabled kid under 13. Teacher had sex with a student in the school. Oh god, too many. A youngish female teacher was sending nudes to a 16-year-old student. They may have had sex, really not clear on that, but they almost definitely did some sort of foreplay in her classroom. It came out later that this wasn't the first time she did this. There were multiple other boys, out of high school at that point, who came out about dating her whilst in high school. He was out of high school, but a 19-year-old who had gone to my high school, I was 16 at the time, was arrested for talking to girls as young as 12 or 13 in sex chat rooms. Turns out, the one he finally went to meet up with was an undercover cop. Oops. Allegedly, he had some sort of butterfly fetish and showed up to the sting in a butterfly costume. One of the gym teachers had a hidden camera in the teacher's bathroom. He was recording women using the bathroom for years. The police found hours upon hours of voyeur porn on his laptop. A young teacher had actually been let go a few years earlier for accusing him of being up to something creepy. When I was a freshman, I started to secretly date a junior boy on the football team. He was embarrassed by me because I never partied and was in AP classes, chubby with big glasses, etc. Anyways, he tried to pressure me into giving him my virginity one night after his mom had taken us out for dinner. When I refused and stood up to go home, he got very angry and physically tried to keep me from leaving his room. I yelled loud enough for his older brother to hear, and brother and mom got him off of me. Mom made dude apologize and then drove me home. By the next week of school, a rumor had gone around that I was having anal sex with some of the football team. The junior boy I had dated had been the one to start this rumor, claiming that he had to break it off with me because I was obsessive. The real scandal ended up happening during a math class that I had with him. He would always make a point to sit as close to me as possible and try to make me watch him touch himself. One day I sat in front of him so I wouldn't have to watch that show. During a movie, the lights were dimmed and all of the sudden I feel something wet on the back of my neck, and running down my back. That pervert had jerked off behind me and put his handful of cum down the back of my shirt. I jumped up and make a commotion. Fortunately I had a couple other girls who also came forward from different classes with this guy, all younger females, all with perverted stories about his behavior towards them. My dad made a holy hellish scene until the boy was suspended. Much more happened, but I tried to shut it all out. Shit was not flattering like dude tried to play it up as, but fucking nasty. Edit, not a movie. It was one of the projectors common in math classes in the 1990s 2000s, it was a push to even get him suspended. I wasn't even able to get out of having classes with him once he came back. One of the computer teachers were messing around with some of the female students, he ended up leaving once word started to go around. School cop was on patrol one night. Pulled over a 18-year-old senior he knew for speeding. Don't know who initiated it, but they ended up fucking in the backseat of his cruiser and she got off. We all found out when she was telling her BFF. The BFF's mom overheard and told the police department. His punishment? Told he could no longer be a school resource officer. This was back in like 06 to 08. He was fired from his job this past year for failing to go to a 911th suicide call and preventing a fellow officer from going to it for almost 30 minutes. Oh, he also told the guy, whose house the woman was found died in, that he was headed there. Link to the article about him being fired. Edit, spelling. Ain't public education grand? The Chinese exchange students had a lesbian orgy in the woman's bathroom during homecoming. Fire alarm was pulled as a distraction to steal a math teacher's grade book that she personally walked around with every day. Well, that day she left it in the class because of the fire alarm, and when she returned it was missing. But how? She was the last one out. Needless to say, everyone passed that class and the lowest grades handed out were C's. There was a 24-year-old teacher who raped a couple students at parties, started dating a 17-year-old student before he finally just got fired. There were 50 kids in my graduating class. It was a small school and everyone knew and didn't do anything about it for a long time. Oh, it was also attached to a church. 17-year-old female student was banging 30-year-old male music teacher. Parents found out and asked for a sensible resolution or they would go to the press. They got his immediate dismissal and, allegedly, a 6-figure settlement. One kid got caught masturbating in science class, then a week later got caught again in the same class. His best friend, freshman year, would go to the bathroom every day and be in there forever. Eventually our teacher sent someone to check on him and he comes back and straight tells everyone that he was in there sticking his dick in a hole in the wall. Not like a glory hole, but a hole in the concrete wall that a toilet paper roll got ripped out of and didn't have an opening, just jagged rock. One girl sent nudes that got around the whole school, one girl had a video of herself sticking a Coke bottle up herself sent around, and one girl a video of her fisting herself that got sent around. But my favorite was this sophomore girl got caught giving her BF a blowjob at school the day before prom. She got expelled and he almost got arrested because he was 18. They broke up and we ended up dating a couple years later. We've been married 7 years now. One of the more popular 9th GR English teachers was arrested for child porn. Guess his computer was filled with it. One of my friends gave the other one a blowjob on the buzz. 2 couples fucked in the church on site, at the same time, and afterwards one of them dipped his nuts into the holy water. Oh, and it was on camera. My homeroom teacher, who was also my physics teacher, got married to an American, might have been Canadian, guy, after she had spent a long time single. Honeymoon was at some activities resort on a lake where you could go kayaking, boating, etc. He takes her out on a boat, murders her on board and dumps her body over the side into the lake. Apparently he had taken out a massive insurance policy on her, so she told either a relative or someone at their hotel, maybe jokingly, that if I don't come back, he's probably murdered me. Police caught him and put him in jail for murder. Second was my own sister. I was in 11th grade, so she would have been in 12th grade. She was dating and taking the classes of our school's Russian teacher. Yes, We were supposed to get German teachers, but they dropped out and this guy was just available. I was told by the school when I raised the issue that as long as they were both over the age of consent, there was nothing they could do. She would also creep out of our house at 4 a.m. to walk to his place for breakfast. When Sis got old at 18 and went off to college, he did exactly the same with another 16-year-old girl at the same school. Last I heard they had at least gotten married. This was all in the UK during the late 70s, early 80s BTW. Different times man, different times. Simple, the Frank interred one day, everyone started whispering about something. Did you see it? I heard it was huge. So and so told me blah blah blah. Turns out someone left an absolute unit of a turd in one of the men's stalls in the senior hall bathroom. People were describing how big they heard it was. A few people took potato quality pictures on their cell phone, 2005 or so here. Well, people started leaving class to go to get drinks or the bathroom or any number of things. I left and when I got there was a dozen students coming in and out at a time, everyone's minds blown. A teacher came down to check it out even and left, and I remember him saying, "Holy F. That S is huge," to the students waiting to go in. It was so massive no one wanted to flush it. It was truly impressive and very confusing how it could come out of anyone on earth. I got a peek right before the janitor came in to deal with it. Thing was legitimately, I'm serious here, the width of a Campbell's soup can and almost as long as a Pringles can. I, to this day, have it burned in my mind. Janitor came in, cursed loudly, and left to get additional tools. It was only there for around an hour, but the legend still lives on 15 years later. No one has any idea who did it, despite every speculation and conspiracy theory. A couple months later another one showed up. It too was massive. But everyone thought it was lame because it was only half the size. Kid drunk full bottle of whiskey during history class and got into an alcoholic coma. It may be false since I only heard of it and I haven't witnessed it. My senior year, a girl would walk home every day by herself along the canal that ran along the school's soccer fields. One day she never came home and the family called the police. Late that night they found her in the canal. Luckily it was drained at the time, with a bullet hole in the back of her head. Unconscious, they rushed her to the hospital and but she survived and is now doing really well. They found the boys that did it because one of them had kept the bullet shell in his room. When asked why, they simply said she was annoying. This rocked my community pretty bad as I grew up in a small town in Utah where everyone goes to the same church. A girl got gangbanged on an office chair and everyone spun it around for a turn. Oh Lord, where do I even start? I went to a large public high school in Pittsburgh, and all of these happened there in a matter of a few years. My pre-calc teacher, who everyone always knew was a creep, was arrested for child pornography. He possessed and distributed baby pornography. Literally infants and toddlers. Security and faculty members found having sex in vice principal's office. Principal charged with stealing thousands of dollars of gift cards intended for students. Different principal arrested for public indecency while naked in the street in broad daylight. Teacher arrested and charged for sexual relationship with a minor he coached in soccer. We burned through 4 principals, I think, in the 4 years that I went there. Incidentally, I coincided with Wiz Khalifa at that school, and Mac Miller was a student there shortly thereafter, I believe. Teaching assistant got caught out having a sexual relation with a girl in year 11, 15-16 years old. A guy's dad had sex with a golden retriever and was caught doing it on a nanny cam. I went to a private Christian high school. The sort of school that punished students for saying things like "holy crap." A popular senior cheerleader suddenly started slowly gaining weight. One of our teachers stopped the class to, tearfully, explain that the student was sick and had been taking some meds that made her intestines swell, and that some students had been making fun of her, calling her fat, calling her pregnant, etc. Needless to say, we all felt bad. Anyway, turns out she was pregnant, and had just made everything up to try and pass senior year without getting expelled. including faking doctor's stuff. Her parents may have been in on it. IDK. Oh god, my high school had a few after I graduated. The least worst one was an insensitive video at a rally. Apparently some students created an Islamophobic video that made some terrorist jokes about Islamic kids at the school. It was pretty fucked up. The next worst one was a pretty bad case of bullying. Apparently this one girl, who was a popular star athlete, would harass a less popular girl to no end. It reached the point where the popular girl followed the less popular girl into the bathroom, took out her phone, angled it under the small, and filmed the less popular girl going to the bathroom. The popular girl posted the video on Facebook and Instagram, where practically the whole school saw it. The school suspended the popular girl for one school day and allowed her to continue to play her sport during the playoffs because she was a star athlete. I can only imagine how the victim's parents felt. I think they sued the district. Alright, now for the worst scandal. One day, during the swimming portion of freshman P, the teacher was teaching the class how to tread water. The teacher was being a hard ass for some reason and kept the class in the pool for a long ass time, more than 10 minutes. During that time, one kid just couldn't stay up and sunk to the bottom of the pool. The teacher ended class without getting a head count and everyone else in the class went to the locker room. The kid that sunk to the bottom of the pool died. The teacher had no idea until 2 periods later, a student noticed a dead corpse in the bottom of the pool. To make matters worse, that dead student's parents had to live through that student's sister, their daughter, committing suicide. Those parents really went through it and sued the school district. This kind of shit can happen anywhere. My school is in an area in the top 2 to 3% of income. Maybe the school is cursed because they built their new gym over a Native American burial ground. Kid was caught rubbing one out in class. When I was in 7th grade, an 8th grade girl gave 20-something dudes blowjobs one after another down by the creek right after school. I mean full on cum in her mouth BJs. Her dad was a Baptist minister. She ended up at an all-girls school shortly thereafter. Edit, forgot to add, she looked like she was doing the funky chicken, shouldn't be hard to visualize. 2 senior students took a shit in a teacher's desk, both were expelled. I don't know if this counts because it didn't happen on school grounds, but another senior student hung herself. This question pops up a lot. 2 neo-Nazi brothers murdered their parents and youngest sibling. One of the assistant principals, AP, was seen getting out of a senior's truck. The senior followed behind. After this got out, the same assistant principal was also revealed to be having an affair with the principal, P. AP and P were married to different people and had children with their respective spouses. P's twins were in middle school. This happened the last week of school and the AP was moved to an elementary school. P moved to exceptional children classroom at another school also. P's children were bullied the rest of their 8th grade year and didn't have many friends at the high school. I saw AP and P at a local restaurant a year later with AP's kids. Actually in junior high, now mid-school, school supervisor was enjoying paddling the girls who were sent to his office just a little too much. He disappeared from his position and the town very quickly. A few years ago at my high school, the baseball team had a Dropbox full of hundreds of girls' nude pictures and were caught by administration, but it was swept under the rug so the team could still play at state that year, and one of the creators received a full-ride scholarship to Stanford University for baseball. A guy I had dated later got kicked out of both school and his house for getting his sister pregnant. We were dating for like 48 hours, and I dumped him because he was always really mean to his sister in front of me. Glad I didn't stick around. I went to a private Christian school, and sometime after I graduated, we apparently had an oversexed 7th grade class, who were sending nudes to each other and stuff or something. Only ever heard about it secondhand from my sister, who was still attending at the time, but considering how many of these kids were children of staff or boosters, it still makes me lol 9 years later. It came out a year after I graduated, but the high school band director, short creepy dude in his 30s, had been involved with numerous male students. Only one came forward, a 12-year-old, and he ended up going to prison for 12 years. Got out recently according to the sex offender registry. Based on the picture on there, if he wasn't a bottom before prison, he is now. The mental thing is that he was the toast of all the parents and community for years, and people were holding rallies and donation drives. Nobody speaks about it now. Completely unrelated, a kid, whose father was a school board member, I had a bunch of classes, and played sports, with had a hit list he made when we were in middle school. It was a whole thing, with police and news reports. Months later, he's back. On the plus side, I wasn't on the list because you're always nice and cool. Yeah, me. Why is this relevant? Because his school board member father was charged a few years later with molesting a whole bunch of boys. He ended up shooting himself right before trial. I always assumed that there was some connection there. Sad really. My cousin's PE teacher turned out to be a pedophile a few weeks ago. My cousin and his classmates might actually testify in court. He got caught like 2 weeks after my cousin's graduation. 60-plus-year psychology teacher / baseball coach got a 16-year student pregnant. Over the next few months he divorced his wife of 20 years, moved out, left his 3 kids, married the 16-year pregnant girl, and they moved in together in another city. The 90s were crazy. A student smeared shit in the shape of a swastika on a mirror in one of the bathrooms. They closed every men's bathroom except for one for the rest of the year. Our high school hired an ex-porn producer to talk about his experiences, the lessons he learned, why porn is evil, etc. Not long after he visited our school, he was arrested and pleaded no contest to sexual misconduct with underage girls. The school scrambled to explain he hadn't been alone with any students during his visit. Overall a big scandal at the school that we still talk about years after graduation. Not high school but middle school, a 14-years/show chick got pregnant and kicked out of school. Some loser from my school posted a question aimed at high schoolers about sex so he could jerk off to the answers. My senior year, a group of sophomores had a party where they watched 50 Shades of Grey. Later on, they formed a line where the girls would give the guys head. The girls took turns going down on each guy. In broader terms it was a blowjob line. The whole school found out within a week and everybody mocked the sophomores for it. I'm pretty sure a couple of the people that were at the party had to go to mandatory meetings in the guidance office. One of my friends actually got invited to it, but he didn't go. A female English teacher was having relationships with 3 different male students. She would apparently pick them up in her van and take them to the mall parking lot to have sex. Cops found out and all 3 of the guys transferred schools. She went to jail for some amount of time, then got released to probation and became a registered sex offender. She was married with 2 small children. Pretty sure her husband stayed with her. Okay, this is my partner's story and it's from when he was in middle school. One year when he was probably like 12 he sold enough magazines in the school magazine drive to get the big prize. This year the prize was an animal encounter in the cafeteria. They packed the room full of kids and teachers with the little kids at the front of the room. It was middle/high school so the youngest kids are 5. There are some nice birds and iguanas or whatever and everything's great until they bring out the tiger. I don't know what instigated it but the tiger just snaps and attacks this little kindergartner. Complete chaos ensues. The tiger gets its entire mouth around the kid's head while students and teachers make a mad dash for the door, blood everywhere. Out of nowhere, the principal wrestles the tiger off of the child and the handlers regain control of the tiger. A teacher who was once a nurse holds the child's head together while they wait for an ambulance. Thanks to that principal the kid was able to make a full recovery. My school had a counselor. He was very well liked and popular with staff and students. We all knew him on some level but he did the daily announcements at the beginning of first period. He was funny and we all enjoyed it. Then one day there were no announcements, very odd. The next day it was someone else doing them but that day the paper hit and was circulating. This counselor was caught receiving a blow job from a male student. It was consensual, but he was still under 18, so the guy was thrown in prison and we never heard about him again. No idea what happened with the student.